I'm going live. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Gosh, everything is just like out of control right now. It decided to like install the new Mac OS like update, and now I'm really annoyed. Okay. So, do you want me to try again, Mulp, or what? What do you
I'm going
want to
live.
do?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Gosh, everything is
I
just like
think
out
we
of
are
control
live.
right now. It decided to like install the new
This
Mac
video feed
OS like
unavailable.
update, and now I'm really annoyed. Okay. So, do you want me to try again, Mulp, or what? What do
I'm
you
going
want to
live.
do?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, I'm having
Okay.
trouble. I'm hearing
Gosh, everything
multiple
is just like
times.
out of control
So
right
maybe you
now.
try,
It
Nick, and
decided
if
to
it
like
doesn't
install
work,
the
then
new
This
try
Mac
video
again.
feed
OS like
unavailable.
So
update,
mine's
and
set
to that
now.
other chat. Let's see. How do I? Really annoyed.
Oh,
Change it.
I'm still seeing video feed unavailable.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it working?
I mean, mine just still says video feed unavailable.
I just refreshed it and someone says yes. That's nice. Hi, Steve.
There we are.
Okay. Well, that's weird because I can't on the YouTube.
All right.
Okay.
I think we can start, Nick.
Okay, great. Okay, so sorry about that. Sorry for the delay. Just getting everything set up and it wasn't working. My computer is Mac, and so I needed an update, and then everything's a little bit thrown off. But yeah, thanks for everybody for tuning in. This is our Convergence live stream. So we had a release yesterday. It featured three main features: ship enhancements, custom contracts, and contract termination. So yeah, we just wanted to hang out with the community. I know we have a lot of new people since the last time we had a stream. I think the last stream was maybe even around the holidays, I think. So yeah, we've had quite a few new players come in. We had our Steam launch, so like, and a lot of new things have been going on, and so we wanted to, connect with our players and talk to you guys and see how you guys were doing and answer any questions that you have. So you can go ahead and start typing or asking us questions, and we'll get to them as best we can. But yeah, I have a list of questions of my own just in case. Like we have a little bit of pause, so right now I guess people are going to be typing. So yeah, let me try to bring up my questions that are not on my computer anymore. All right. Let's see. So let's just do something with Convergence right now. So why did you pick the three features for the Convergence release?
Oh, that's a tough question. Why did we choose those three? Okay, so I think it's because of the circumstances we are in. So we had a team meeting earlier this year. I don't remember when it was, but it felt like spring or so. And at that time we decided that we want to do smaller increments to be able to deliver updates faster. And we're very well aware that faster in our case means still at a glacial pace due to our limited dev time. Yep. So we had a whole list of features we want to implement over the course of the next year or so, and we split up in smaller parts that make sense in itself. And while they only might tease or be a teaser of a certain feature, we still decided to release them, so you get an idea where we are headed. And let me quickly have a look on the list. So contracts are a big part of that. And so we decided that we decided on that team meeting in spring that we want to have custom contracts. And custom contracts, what we envision with it is that players can send other players contracts in a very direct way without going to the local markets or going via the local markets. And they should be able to have multiple conditions in the contracts. For example, a shipping contract that contains multiple shipments or items and stuff like that. And that is a big challenge, making that editor for the custom contracts and also changing the contract system itself. It's one of the oldest parts of Prosperous Universe, actually. And so we decided, or we thought about what would be the smallest increment that gives any advances or is actually usable for the players, and that is having custom contracts that you can send to a friend directly, but only using the 3 templates we are already seeing on the local markets, or have been seeing before on the local markets. That way, the whole editor becomes way easier to implement. We can test the concept, how it works out, and how well it is received by the players. And yeah, that's the custom contract thing. And we want, of course, to expand on that, but maybe we'll talk about that in a second. And shipbuilding has been on our list for quite a while, and it's the same here. In the end, we want to have a full-blown ship editor, maybe with 3D with a 3D view where you can place the modules where you want and stuff like that. And we have shown some prototypes of that in the past. But really the quickest thing to do and with the most benefits for you, the players, was to make it possible to actually upgrade the existing ships. Because getting a new ship from scratch is very, very expensive in Prosperous Universe, as you all know. So it's way easier to actually just build up your ships incrementally. And by the way, Fabian did the implementation on that.
Yeah, I was going to say that was maybe the reason that became the third part of the update, because I happened to have some time on my hands between design tasks for PU and other projects. But yeah, and ship upgrades were one of the most asked for things. Like basically ever since we had shipbuilding in the game, people have been asking to upgrade ships with individual parts and not having to build the whole ship from the ground up every time. So yeah, that just fit together, and now we have it earlier than we were expecting ourselves, maybe. But the contracts, as Michi mentioned, are like basically part of some bigger plan, so to say, not just for the custom contracts themselves, but also because a lot of things we want to do next are actually also based in contracts. Like we talked before about the faction contracts, where you get some NPC contracts initially or throughout the game, which will tackle some of the biggest reasons why players bounce off the game currently, is because they don't have enough to do in the early game, and they sometimes struggle to find goals for themselves. So these NPC contracts will give you a bit of both. They will give you something to do and something to shoot for. Yeah, so this is a big thing that we want to improve for people getting into the game, and they are also based in contracts, so it really made sense to start with the custom contracts now. And then later on we have stuff with the politics and infrastructure that we also talked about way back and has been on our list for a while, but that also is connected to contracts. So really it's the groundwork for a whole lot of things.
Great. Thanks for all those explanations. These were really well thought out. Let's see. We have a question from Steve Armstrong. He says, I assume not, but is there any plans to at all introduce some explicit forms of competition, such as spaceship battles or political mechanisms, etc.?
Fabian, I think you can mention the leaderboards, right? I mean, it's not
Yeah,
very
it's not
explicit,
not
but
really gameplay competition, but it's like you can make a competition out of it, being number one on the leaderboards, like the biggest water producer in the universe or whatever. And yeah, so in the spaceship battles, probably not. Like we don't really want players to destroy other players' stuff in the game. In terms of political mechanisms, however, there will be a whole lot that you'll be able to play with and not really like attack someone, but maybe maybe the factions will wrestle with each other a bit more, and you will not just be able to go anywhere in the universe quite as easily, but it will depend a bit on your standing with each of the factions, and that there will be options to like indirectly influence other players, like not really aggressively and with like physical warfare, but there will be more in this in the sense of scheming and basically having some influence over the structure of the universe.
Great. Let's see, we have another question from Moments. When will Apex license become tradable?
we have that on the roadmap, but there's no immediate plans to implement that. Is there a specific reason why you ask that?
Yeah, Moments, if you can write us again, like just describing a little bit more of like what do you want from the Apex license trading. Let's see. Next question we have is from Mia A. Will there be a new window of active contracts? The new user contracts are great, but you can't find them in the history of all past contracts.
The new user contracts should be, I mean, the window or the buffer containing all the contracts is sorted by creation time, so they should be on the top of that, right? Yeah, I mean, sorting and filtering and all of that has been requested many times for all kinds of commands we have in the game, and we'll get there eventually. But we haven't had the time to actually implement it yet. There have always been more important things to do. Maybe a question back to you as well, because are the new contracts really like very far down in the list? I can't really imagine that to be the case. Or is it maybe maybe we can implement a feature like the pending contracts in the sidebar, where we distinguish between pending contracts and open contracts or something like that? Would that help?
Let's see. Next we have let's see. Steve Armstrong asks. He asked a previous question, but he says, any plans to make buffer columns sortable? For example, sortable by mat name.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing. Ideally, we want to have a system where you can throw in any type of table we have in the game and make it sortable and filterable and stuff like that. But it's no small task. And as I've said, we know about that, and we want to have it eventually, but haven't gotten around to do it yet.
Let's see. Okay, let's get back to some of mine. Let's see. In the past, we kind of talked about you having a UI update to the game. What's the plan for that right now? Is it still coming? What should we tell players about this?
Yeah, there are plans for UI update indeed, and we're talking to someone who's working with us, a freelancer, and they will provide um, a high-level design, and we'll then iterate on that and see if that fits, and if it does, we will implement a new design that's a bit more fancy and not as much programmer art as it is right now. So yeah, there are plans, and this is currently in the works, but we can't make any promises.
Okay. RNG Zero asks, is the ability to buy out or vote out an inactive corporation member planned?
I don't think we have active plans on doing that, but the corporations have been neglected for quite a while, and they are on the roadmap, or improvements for the corporations are on the roadmap. For example, adding a function to actually kick out inactive members and stuff like that. I think one of the larger features that will come before that is actually the politics system, and with the politics systems we'll have motions where players or players that act as politicians will have the ability to file motions and vote on them, and we want to have that before going into the details with the corporations again, because we think that we might use that functionality from the politics update in the corporations, or at least parts of it, like I just said, such a voting system, for example. So it doesn't make sense to implement it for the politics update and for the corporations. And politics will come first.
Let's see. Moments wrote again about the license description, or license trading, I mean, and they wrote as a plan to add a description to the corporation page or to make voting easier, or a link to the forums. So this was in reference to Apex licensing trading.
Isn't that more a reference to voting who will be the governor?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Like if
Maybe
it means
it's a
what I
separate
think it
question,
means,
yeah.
then yes, something like that is part of our politics plans, where you can basically write a short pitch text for why you should be voted on and why you should be a part of the government of a planet. And we also want to give the actual governors or then parliaments the option to communicate a bit better with those who have bases on the planet. Like they, for example, could have a like a notice board on the planetary info tile where they can like tell people about the current status of the planet or what their plans are, where they want the planet to be headed. So it's not like as much like currently, if you're not looking into the forums or not on part of the discords, then you don't really get to see a lot of what your governor actually does or wants to do. And we want to put that more into the game with the politics update as well.
And Moments also asks, is there any plans for system-wide politics?
Eventually, yes, but most likely not for the first part of the politics update. Like, eventually, systems will be something that can be faction controlled, for example, and factions will spread over systems. But for now, politics will stay a planetary thing with the next with the politics update.
Maybe we'll get back to Steve, who asks
Okay.
when you mention a UI overhaul to make it less programmer friendly. That's not exactly what I meant, if I get you right. We don't want to make it less programmer friendly, just the artworks or the art style that is currently making up the UI is programmer art. Martin and I did that way back, and it hasn't changed much, and it hasn't actually seen or hasn't been revisited by a proper UI artist. So everything you see, all shades of gray we have in there, are just us coming up with what we think is a cool color scheme and whatnot. So I'm referring to that. So we'll work with the freelancer. They will provide the UI designs, and then we'll go into the details how the tiles can actually look like. So we won't really change the feel or how the components work, but just how they look, for most parts at least.
Right. All right. Nia also asked, in the future, will there be an LM analog for the corporation so that contracts will only be visible to members of the corporation?
I'm not sure.
I mean,
could be.
Yeah. We're definitely considering it.
All right, and let's go to you. Writes, any news about beacons?
No, there are no news on beacons. Beacons will be one of the first things we want to implement when we get to the infrastructure updates. If you don't know what that is, we have talked about that in past devlogs, and basically it's a thing that we want to, or a big feature that we want to implement after we have politics implemented. We're not sure if we are going to intermix it, and as we did now with the custom contracts and ship upgrades, so we could, for example, start with the basic functionality of the politics system, and then have the beacons, for example, as a example infrastructure project that can be managed by the new politics system. Or if we are going to go deeper into politics and then do the infrastructure. So no updates on beacons as of now.
All right. So yeah, let's take a few more questions about Convergence, or I will ask some questions about Convergence too, and then we can move on to maybe Steam or some other topics. So now that we have Convergence out, what's next after Convergence? And maybe we can combine that with like how frequently patches and maintenance patches and releases are going to be coming out in the future.
Okay, maybe I'll start with the latter part. I'm going to be on parental leave for quite a while, starting anytime now. So there won't be any updates in August, that's for sure. And after that we'll continue, as Fabian said, we'll continue working on the custom contracts, and we're using the foundation we laid with the custom contracts to actually implement the faction contracts, which is a system where players get new contract offers on a regular basis from a faction agent. And as Fabian mentioned, that should help with the early gameplay and spice things also a bit up for new players and make it possible to earn more money in the beginning of the game. And after we have that in place, I think we're going to look at the contracts, custom contracts once again, because as I mentioned earlier, we want to have the custom contracts editor should be more fancy. We should have more control over how a contract actually looks like. For example, that you can add arbitrary conditions. One goal, for example, is to have some kind of, or the ability to create some kind of loan contracts, because that's something players have been asking for ages now, and we will be looking in that kind of things. Anything else comes to mind, Fabian?
Well, no, that's pretty much the next thing, and then we also touched on what would come afterwards in the long term, like the politics and the infrastructure. And yeah, that's also based on contracts being more flexible, and faction contracts will also introduce a couple new conditions, actually, that, for example, the faction agent might ask you to travel to a certain system or planet and deliver some information to them. And this is something that's currently not in the game, but we in general want to make all these conditions, offer more conditions and make them more flexible. And this will also help with the infrastructure in the future, where you can have infrastructure maintenance contracts where some player is tasked with maintaining like a beacon, for example, which is the first thing we'll try. And yeah, a lot will be centered around contracts, just like in the real world, I guess.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so we got a pretty big influx of questions. So I'll take some more questions right now. Let's see. Is there plan? This is from Juan. Is there plans for more corporations working together, like share warehouse, port projects, mega structures, or corporate markets?
I'd say there are at least ideas, not plans yet. But as I said, we want to get the politics out first, and then we'll look into infrastructure, and that might also contain corporation infrastructure or corporation-run infrastructure. But politics will come first.
All right, and let's see. I think we kind of already answered the question about what's our target release schedule. I mean, maybe we weren't so clear about it, but it kind of depends on like the availability of the developers and what other projects we have going on. So it's not a really like set in stone sort of schedule. So I don't know if that kind of answers your question, but yeah, we have to kind of take into account like what everyone's working on. So it's not exactly like a quarterly or, annually, like we have to release these projects, this year or something.
Yeah, and it depends on the size of the features as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, and let's go to you. Also ask Mulp and Fabian, how do you feel about Pop? Is it Poppy? I don't know. Let's see, and how it currently runs. Martin says he wishes it would be more alive and dynamic. When asked what feature he would like, he had more time to implement. When asked, yeah.
Do you want to answer that, Fabian, or should I?
Well, I'm not sure if every player would agree they would like to have it be more dynamic. Like, that sounds a bit dangerous. I mean, I will say it works right now. Like, we tweaked it a lot after it was introduced in the game, and it changed a lot. But yeah, it's definitely far from perfect. And we have a lot of improvements already on our list. But yeah, I mean, things will change anyway with the politics in the future, and potentially also the infrastructure, where you can now have privately owned infrastructure in the mix that can also affect planets and populations and kind of everything. Like, even the beacons could influence travel times around certain systems, and that could make them more attractive to settle in. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming that will affect the population, and yeah, we will definitely improve it further in the future.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so kind of moving on to Steam stuff, since we haven't really talked or had a live stream since Steam. Maybe we want to give sort of like some feelings, or how the Steam project kind of went. So who would like to start?
I can start. So Steam has been kind of a roller coaster of feelings for us because this is our first Steam project, so we didn't know what we were getting into, and we did implement the Steam client and it works, but we are aware that it doesn't work perfectly and could be better, and we will take some time and make it a bit better. And the good thing about Steam is that it worked in one way that we anticipated, and that is bringing in new players, and that works really well. And Steam just adds another discoverability channel to Prosperous Universe, really, and that's obviously a great thing. But we quickly learned that influx of new players is highly dependent on the Steam ratings, and as you might know, Prosperous Universe is not for everyone. I read one really cool review today that says it's a highly acquired taste, and I agree. I mean, it just is. And the thing is that we get a lot of negative reviews from players that played the game for just a couple of minutes, and you can see it if you take a look at the reviews, how long they played. And that really saddens us that we get really bad reviews from players that play the game less than an hour or so. If there are technical reasons for it, and in the beginning there have been some, for example, on some computers the game just wouldn't start, that's perfectly fine, I can live with that, that's no problem. But just downvoting the game because it's not for that specific player, that really hurts. And reading those reviews is like, at a point I had to stop because it really messes with your mind. So what we are aiming for and what we actually implemented in the Convergence release is that we want to have more positive reviews, and thus leading to to a bigger influx of players from Steam. And we added a notification in the game. So if you're playing via Steam and you have been playing for a while, you get a notification asking you to review the game and give it a good review, obviously. And we hope to increase our rating on Steam and the player influx with it.
Right. So like if you guys are listening, you haven't done a Steam review, we would really appreciate it if you would leave a nice review for us, because as Mulp just said, like it really does help the game out quite a lot. And you know, Steam is its own like marketing tool, so it has been like pretty cool to see how that works and how it gathers and sends so many new players to the game. And you know, like it functions as like, you know, a news creating source. So like if when posts different things, like devlog content sometimes, or there's like a new update to the game, you can also see that like, you know, the game or the platform actually kind of pushes that in the algorithm and lets players know and stuff like that. So it actually is a great tool if we can just kind of get the reviews kind of situation under control. I think it would be even like super strong for us, and it's really interesting to learn about it and to use it. So yeah, it's just kind of right now we're a little bit struggling with the reviews part, but you know, I think overall the Steam launch was really nice and gives us more ability to sort of reach new players. So it's been very good for that. Let's see. So we do have some new questions. Moments ask, can we have a global trading insight on the blog or something like EVE Online monthly reports?
Yeah, that would be really awesome. And I really like the EVE market reports, they're really great. But they actually have someone doing that, or just doing that. They hired an economist for that. And given how complicated creating those reports can be, I totally understand it. It takes time, and we don't have that time at the moment. But I'd love to.
Just need enough Steam players to get to hire an economist.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, what else do we have? Let's see, are there plans to let free/basic licensed players upgrade their ships? There have been a lot of shipbuilding goods and are only usable by pro users right now.
I don't think we're going to change that behavior. We want, if you are going to do a ship project, you will have to have pro. I think that's pretty much set in stone at this point. And really, if you don't want to have pro all the time, that's not a big deal. You can have pro for 1 month, upgrade or build your ships, and then you can use them.
I don't know if it's my computer or his computer, but I don't hear anything.
Okay.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Now I can. Fabian, could you hear Mulp the whole time or no?
Yes.
Okay, so it's my computer. All right. let me disconnect and come back.
Okay, what do we have in the chat? Mia says, the update is great, thank you. And Steve is asking, would I be correct in saying that all of the data to produce economic reports is exposed via APIs? I wish it was. We don't have an official API yet, so nothing is exposed at the moment. And having an API public is on the list of things to implement. But to be honest, that is more of a Martin topic than it is a Molp topic, actually. So I feel, and Martin is very busy at the moment with other projects. So I feel that is going to be on the back burner for quite a while.
Let's see. Let's just talk about maybe like a more of a general question. So what has been the most complicated or difficult feature to implement into the game up until this point? So, and from any release or even from the base game, like what do you guys think was the most complicated thing to put into the game?
I'm not sure. Maybe it's the contracts, because they are kind of involved and always include two sides of a contract, so always two players involved. Makes it
always the latest
tricky
thing you worked on, right?
It's always the latest thing, yeah. And of course, population infrastructure was a pretty big topic, and we did work on that for a while and did even more bug fixing. They come to mind at first, but yeah, it's always the latest thing that has been the hardest. It's never easy.
Things always get more complicated the more things are in, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Actually, for example, I don't know, if we have a new feature that introduces a totally new functionality to the game, that's fine, that's easy to implement. It gets hairy if it interacts with existing systems in a way, and we have many interdependent systems now, and it's really hard to get a grasp of what kind of side effects there will be that you haven't thought of during designing the feature. And that's also another problem is the existing data we have. For example, with Convergence, when we released Convergence, I was pretty confident that we had most of the things are going to work okay, and most of the things would work. I mean, we have tested it. It was on staging, our test server, and everything. But still, we ran into problems and usually they stem from data on the database that's pretty old, and it's just not the way you get it if you just set up a new test instance and start a world from scratch. And that's something really hard to anticipate.
Let's see. Gabriel or Gabriel asked that about conflict, which is like politics, which we did, or I think already talk about earlier in the stream. So I'm not sure if you heard about it, but he asked. That seems or he says it's quite a significant change to the game. Is there a timeline on that, and what will it look like? But I think Fabian, did you answer that question already?
Yeah, basically. I mean, yeah, we have said before that we don't want direct conflict in the game, and it'll be more like indirect and political and factions going up against each other roughly by spreading influence over the universe. But yeah, that's something beyond the politics and infrastructure features that we want to introduce first, definitely.
Okay, let's see. Mia asks, can player blogs about day-to-day play and game mechanics help develop the game for new player recruitment?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I think she means like if players talk about game mechanics that are actually implemented into the game, is that a feature that could be used for player recruitment? I mean, I think that's already a big thing about Prosperous Universe already, is that we take feedback into consideration and implement it into the game. I think that's a big reason why a lot of players play Prosperous Universe. But like as far as like player blogs, like I don't know if she means like an external website or something like that. I mean, of course, all those things will come up when you search for Prosperous Universe on Google. So yeah, I think any content is great for us. So if you want to do something like that, then by all means.
And you can be pretty sure that the devs will read it when you write a blog about Prosperous Universe game mechanics.
Yeah,
right.
That's for sure.
Okay, let's see. I'm interested in this question, but it's in two sections. Let's see. As a new player, one of the big issues I faced was that it's very easy to start a bad chain and be unable to fix it. Maybe fix it at the start, I think he means. Something that might be helpful is ways to make small amounts of basic consumables or money to help fix a chain. Nothing in quantity that affects established players, but as a helping hand. Is this something you have thought about?
So if I get that right, the problem seems to be that you start out with producing something you felt might make you a buck or two, and that didn't turn out too good, and you run out of money.
Mm-hmm.
And a while ago we talked about the faction contracts, and that's pretty much exactly the thing we are aiming for. So new players will get a couple of contract offers where they do small tasks like fly somewhere, transport something somewhere, or do a trade, something like that, and they will be rewarded in money and consumables, and that might help out the new up and growing companies in the game.
Okay, here's a more general question as well. What feature was best received by players, just from any release or even at the start of the game?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, it really depends on who you ask, right?
Mm-hmm. I feel
I mean,
like
what I'm
shitposts are
thinking
good.
of immediately is some quality of life feature.
Yeah.
Like that's usually the ones where players are like unanimously yes, finally, and nobody's like I don't think it works perfectly. I don't know, like the filters in the local markets or the unload ship button. Those are things where everyone agrees. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Good to add to the game.
Yeah, I think from my time here, so I started with the Presence release up until now. I feel like Atlas maybe was the one that people were most excited about, or not most excited about, but had like the most positive feedback. Maybe that's just me, but I feel like the Atlas update was really just big, and people really
Yeah.
enjoyed that one. So let's see. Okay, here's
Here's a important question from Juan. Will those faction contracts be available to free or basic players? Yes, of course. Otherwise, they wouldn't make any sense. We want to help out the new players, and that includes basic and free players as well. Of course. Yeah.
Steve asked us what games do you play in your spare time?
Which spare time? Fabian has to start. His list is very long.
Well, let me see. One game I'm always playing basically is Super Auto Pets, which might surprise you when you hear the name, but it's actually a very involved strategy game if you get into it, where you have to build like a little team of pets and they fight against other teams, and it changes every week, so it never gets old basically because they always change the available pets. And other than that, I don't know. I'm playing some Escape from Tarkov from time to time. It's kind of similar to Prosperous Universe in a way, because you can always learn new things and make new plans, and it goes on and expands, and they add new stuff, and there's an economy in the background where you buy and sell stuff, and it's kind of like that, just with a little bit of running through the woods and shooting people in between.
Always fun running through the woods and shooting people. For me, I like a lot of Japanese games. That's actually what kind of got me into video games, was like Final Fantasy and stuff like that. And I did live in Japan for 2 years, so I don't know, like that, I guess culture sort of resonated with me. I also really like strategy, like turn-based strategy games. So right now I'm playing Triangle Strategy, which is a kind of a dumb name, but the game's really fun, so I've been good with that. And I love like the retro style graphics from like the Super NES era. So yeah. So Miki, did you have anything to add to, or no?
I have plenty of time to think about it, but actually I don't play any games at the moment, really. Usually when I play, then it's with friends, and we play what they call boomer shooters nowadays, like Quake and Wolfenstein and Duke Nukem, that kind of stuff. It's like,
Well, you did play Valheim at some point,
I
right?
did play Valheim, that's true, yeah, and that was a really good game, yeah. But I'm not very far into it.
Okay, this is an interesting question. Let's see, what do you like about the community the most? And we can't say what he said, so everyone has to have a unique answer, is what he is getting at.
What we like about the community?
Mm-hmm.
Phew. That's a good question.
The first thing that comes to mind immediately is how helpful the community is. Like, there are always people answering other people's questions and introducing new players, and it's like a rare thing that it's so like on a broad scale so positive, because in a lot of other communities you get like, I don't know, quite a few snarky people or whatever, or that are like annoyed by always the same questions. But the Prosperous Universe community is really welcoming and wants other people to learn about the game and introduce them to the crazy depth it has, and that's really good to see.
Yeah. What you said. And I really like that our player base is so diverse in terms where they're coming from education-wise. And I can learn a lot of things from Discord discussions about all kinds of economic topics. And I'm coming from a computer science background, and I did work in banks and at the German stock exchange for a brief time, but I have no education in economics, so I can only learn from those players, and that's something I really enjoy.
Yeah, I think, I mean, since my job is marketing, I also kind of maybe have a more marketing approach to what I like more, or I like a lot about the community. It's like when I need something, or when I'm not like so well equipped, like I'm not the best video editor, I'm learning, and you know, I can always step in and ask, you know, the community, would you like to do this, or is anyone interested? And almost always someone reply. So I love the fact that like people really want to get involved in promoting the game, and people are really excited about that. And yeah, it's also just really nice to work with players, because I know like they have the best interest at heart for the game and wanting to promote it and wanting to see other people play it. And it's really nice to bounce ideas, you know, around with other players as well. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what everyone has been saying, like everyone is so helpful and nice and just welcoming. So yeah, I mean, it's basically kind of the same answer, but you know, in a marketing sort of frame of mind. Let's see. Okay. So I had a question. Oh, someone said they see me like playing the Yakuza series, which I thought was funny because I do have the first game, like Yakuza 0, and it's been on my like backlog for a while, so I will get to it eventually, and I'm sure I will really like that game. Let's see. Okay, so Juan asked, could we get a planet dedicated trade chat window, or would that be hard and time consuming?
We could do that, technically, but right now, if you're interested in planet-based trade communication, I think it would be best to join the UFO Discord, and they have that over there. And I think in the game it would only make sense if the player base grew quite a bit, so that we actually have a bit of traffic in these channels. We don't want to have too many channels that are basically empty in the game. And I think even on the larger planets it's still possible to ask for trades and do deals and stuff like that. Or at least start them there and go into private chat somewhere else.
Great. So we've, I know we started late, so we probably want to wind down the stream maybe in the next like 10 minutes or so. So if there's like a burning question that you have that you really want the devs to answer, go ahead and type it in. RNG0 asks, is there always someone awake to answer questions in the chat? I think probably, because you know, like we have so many different time zones represented in the game. So yeah, I think every time I've ever written in the chat, someone has responded, and sometimes I'm awake really late. So so yeah, I think, I mean, what would you guys say? Has there ever been a situation where someone didn't reply in the chat?
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Mia asks, what do you think about inflation after new players come in with startup money?
Yeah, that's a topic for a whole stream. But I don't worry too much. I did worry when we started out with Prosperous Universe, but actually we need that money that comes in with the new players to keep the whole economy going, basically, because players grow, and as they grow they have bigger they need more capital to keep everything running, and so I don't think the inflation is too great. And of course we have the packs with the consumable market makers, so I'm not worrying too much.
All right. Gabriel asks, when should we expect the next universe reset?
Not anytime soon.
Okay, good. Short and sweet.
When it's necessary.
Yeah, when it's necessary.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Mia asked, the repetition function of the user contract is not active. Is it planned for the future?
Yes, that was kind of an oversight from my part. I did put it in there to see the layout of the contract draft command, and disabled it, and then I forgot to remove it again and just released with it, so it's always disabled at the moment. And yes, we want to have repeating contracts in the future. And right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Fabian, the way it's supposed to work is that if you create a contract with that flag on, and then that contract gets fulfilled, then the same type of contract just starts over, or is generated anew, and then that contract starts.
Yep. That's the basic idea.
Yeah. I'm not sure if about the edge cases, what will happen, for example, if the contract is terminated or breached or something like that. But we have to talk about that. I don't think we have had a chat about that yet.
Let's see, here's like a more of a technical question from Juan. Have you started doing more backups more often after the last database issue?
Well, we do backups, and we do them on a regular schedule, but really the backup wouldn't have helped us much. Okay, if it was from a day before, so we could have rolled back to that state and saved some trouble. Yeah, we'll work on that, that's for sure. I mean, we're still in early access, and a lot of the infrastructure we have planned for is not there yet. Once we are in the final version that we don't reset anymore, then obviously we will have a way more stringent backup system in place. But right now of course it's kind of important, but not that important. We do have backups, but yeah.
Okay, and Steve also asks, what makes a reset necessary?
And the backup fails.
Backup failure, that's true. Yeah, I mean, there are technical reasons. For example, if we really lose data and we cannot, for whatever reason, use the backup, then we would have to restart the universe. There's no way around it. But when we implement new features, we usually try to implement them while the universe is running, and that's possible for the most part. But the easiest example that comes to mind when we would have to actually do a universe reset is if we change the universe itself. For example, because we add a new faction, or we want to change the distribution of resources. That's something we cannot do in a running universe.
Yeah, that's great. So I wanted to also kind of not really ask my own question, but just sort of raise the topic of first access perks. So if you bought a support tier, back when we were in first access, or now that we're in early access, either way, we are in the process of fulfilling those orders. So depending on what tier you purchased, be on the lookout for something in the mail. I believe we are going to need your mailing address. So there will be some details in the future about how you can put those details into the system, and so we can mail them to you and you get them safely. But yeah, just wanted to mention that because yeah, it has been quite a while since we posted any kind of update on it. But yeah, we're almost there. So thank you for your patience with that. And so let's see if there's, are there any more questions? We're coming up on an hour, and I believe that's all the time we're going to have today. But yeah, maybe we take one more question. While we're waiting for the last question, let's see. Mia asks, are you going to be changing some recipes anytime soon? The quantity and types of input and output resources.
Well, that's a Fabian question.
Well, no immediate plans. Like, we were talking about the universe reset before. We have some rebalancing things that we want to look into when we reset, but in terms of like immediate small scale balancing changes, there's nothing urgent on the list, I would say.
No.
All right. Okay. Thanks for answering all those questions, guys. I think that's gonna wrap up our stream today. Thank you everybody that decided to come and participate, and hope you are really enjoying the release, Convergence, and let us know if you have any feedback. Of course, there's multiple ways to write us and post on the forums. Yeah, look forward to your first access perks or early access perks coming in. And don't forget to review us on Steam. That really helps us out a lot. So if you haven't done that, please do. And thank you again for joining. And we'll hopefully do a live stream a little bit more frequent than this. It's been a while. I think it's been about 6 or 7 months since we've done it. So yeah. Thank you, and we hope to see you again in the next live stream.
Bye bye.
Bye.